Moneycontrol. You have tuned into IPO wrap for the week. It's an interesting week, and the upcoming week also remains to be interesting because we have Cello and Mamaearth, which will be hitting the primary markets with their initial public offering. And it's going to be a flurry of IPOs which are going to come through. Essentially, Cello is going to be starting in from October 30 onwards. The IPO size is 1,900 crore. It's going to be an all OFS issue. On the other hand, you have the must awaited issue, that is Honasa Consumer, known as the parent company essentially of Mamaearth. That's going to be gearing up for an IPO from October 31st to November 2nd with an IPO size of around 1,700 crore and a price band of around 324 crore. Both of these IPOs are main board. Of course, in SME segment, we have a lineup of 4 IPOs. You have Transsteel Seating Technologies, Vrindavan Plantation, and Miss Designs, along with Saar Televenture, which is also going to be joining in the IPO frenzy from November 1st to November 3rd with an issue size of around 25 odd crore. It's an SME IPO that we're talking about. But to take the discussion forward, we've been joined by Neerav Karkare, the head of research for FISDM. Neerav, evening there, and thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us. Straight up, I'm going to come to the point. What do you make out of Mamaearth's IPO, which is long-awaited one? Perhaps some concerns around the valuation bit, perhaps a bit of cut on the issue side. It has been a long-awaited one. What are your initial thoughts about it?
So Mamaearth is indeed a long-awaited IPO, and it has always found its way through the headlines. For either reasons, good or bad, one way or another. Investors have been on the lookout for this IPO. Now that it is here, finally, there are a few things that one must note. So Mamaearth is building a very strong brand-led business, and of late, it has actually gone on an acquisition spree to fuel their inorganic growth aspirations. It is very recent that it turned profitable. So there is some sort of relief and some sort of argument that can be made against the naysayers who do not want to touch loss-making new generation companies from a mile away as well. So there is some bit of hope that Mamaearth brings to the table for investors. At the same time, it has been embroiled in controversies around its valuation for the longest period in time. In fact, very recently also it reduced its IPO size, wherein there was a statement where it said something on the lines of the current investors not being very happy for the OFS segment being priced at where it is at this point in time. So obviously there is some talks and controversy around the valuations and how good or bad it is. I feel one must take into account the general market context also when we talk about such companies. So we must understand it is a fast growing company. The top line is growing really fast, but the bottom line still continues to be under pressure. The earnings growth trajectory is not yet established. And the sustainability of earnings growth is very far from established at this point. So it is more of a growth bet at this point and requires far more investor courage and bravado to start taking exposure to stocks like Mamaearth. We can expect investors to be slightly cautious. In a very good euphoric market, like a couple of quarters back, the narrative would have been slightly different. But now, considering the current scenario where there is a very strong, undercurrent of nervousness, it seems too aggressive of a bet amid such risk of environment. So there could be some interest from the retail segment, definitely, because it is a household name, the business is well diversified, etc. But we are not expecting it to make a huge splash as yet, at least.
Are you expecting any kind of listing pop, so to say? Sure, much of it will also depend on the kind of subscription that we're looking at. But also do bear in mind the fact that it comes amidst a time when the mood is pretty the sentiment remains somber across the board. So valuation concerns combined with the inorganic expansion that they've taken and the impairment of goodwill that they've taken on their financials and the one-time loss that they've seen apparently because of this, it raises perhaps a lot of question mark. But how do you read into all of this?
Yeah, so like you pointed out very correctly, in fact, somber was the word that I was looking for. That's exactly how the market mood is today. And there are a lot of concerns indeed around the impairment loss that they have taken on account. And Like you said, there are many questions, and I would extend it further to say there are many questions that are yet to find its answers. So, considering this as the backdrop, we believe investors could be slightly cautious and not really rush headfirst into the IPO right now at this stage. At least, it would serve investors well to wait and watch how do the next couple of quarters evolve in terms of earnings, and how does the price settle over the next couple of quarters before they decide to take a very longer term view per se. And the same, we believe, would be the stance by most institutional investors also. So while IPOs must not be looked into for a listing pop or listing gain, but if it were any judge of the interest that this IPO is garnering, we would expect it to list at a tepid positive. We are talking probably high single digit percentage higher than the upper band. I feel that is where I would peg it at the moment.
All right. So is it an avoid or a subscribe for Mamaearth in that case?
It is a cautious subscribe is what I would say. So for investors who have a really long term view, they should be very cautious and subscribe to a very smaller quantity versus what they would like to. And for most others who are seeking a binary answer, I would say it's best to avoid at the moment. You'll always get an opportunity once it lists.
Sure, you said what you said. In that case, it's an avoid coming in for Mamaearth. But let's talk about Cello in that case. That's the one that we need to talk about enough and more. 1,900 crore, it's an issue size, and all of it is offer for sale. The company is divided into three parts. It's a three segments. It has the stationery, it has the printing, it has the two other segments put together. How are you viewing this IPO? The revenue growth profile thus far has been decent, 30% FY21 to 23. I spoke to the management. They said that the momentum remains to, looks like they're going to maintain it. But how are you viewing it, and what are your initial thoughts about this?
Yeah, so I completely resonate what you shared that the management had indicated. It looks to be on par to sustain its revenue growth, and its bottom line and margin growths are also looking pretty sustainable at this point in time. The business is a really sound business. Balance sheet looks healthy from the elementary view of it, and all these segments are well positioned to grow from here on. Probably from an offer perspective, the only thing that could concern investors slightly or a tad bit is that it is entirely an offer for sale. However, this should not be much of a concern beyond a point, because it is a sustainable business. It has enough strength in its balance sheet to fund expansionary plans, and it has a track record of expanding its capacities and creating a very strong roadmap towards higher utilization. So the management is pretty confident, and the business prospects also look pretty decent, and it has the financials to back it. So it is a good business that investors would want to try and have a piece of, own a piece of. So Cello looks very interesting at this point in time, both from a business profile standpoint as well as a financial profile standpoint. The business looks really attractive for investors seeking an exposure into the segment.
So it is a subscribe in that case for Cello?
Yes.
Okay. Also, any other concerns typically that you saw for Cello in terms of the margin profile or in terms of the strategy? Because they're technically working in, 80% of the revenue is coming in from the plastic industry, which has got little barrier to the industry put together. How are you viewing this as compared to the peer group? Does the valuation look attractive at this time?
Obviously, considering the large dependency on plastic, there is some fair bit of vulnerability and sensitivity that's emanating from there. However, the business seems very robust to be able to, manage its margin profiles over a longer duration. Obviously, there could be bouts of cyclicality, and we expect most of it to be offset and average out in the longer period. If you were to talk about the valuations also, versus peers at this point in time, it appears to be fairly valued. we don't see it as cheap, neither too expensive. It is uh, around the range of being fairly valued, and considering the growth prospects, it is definitely in the range of being reasonable at the moment.
All right. Stay on with us. We're just going to give a small recap of how the week was essentially for the primary markets. Blue Jet Healthcare Mainboard IPO with an issue size of around 840 odd crore opened for subscription on 25th to 27th, received a strong response, subscribed 1.77 times by day three, relatively not a figure which is to be mixed and matched with the recent times of outperformance that we've seen both the other IPOs, but IRM Energy was also the one which listed at 5.49% discount to the issue price on October 26 to October 26. Arvind and Company Shipping Agency, it was an SME company which made an impressive debut and listed at substantial 77% premium. And we also had Woman Cat, an SME offering beauty and wellness products, had its IPO listed on October 27th, debuting with an premium of around 36 odd percent. Now, these were some of the IPOs and the listings that we had. Blue Jet Healthcare, how are you looking at it? I mean, it's already closed for subscription, but overall, do you see now the interest perhaps dwindling in terms of the IPO listing gains also? Point in case being, IRM Energy, where it listed at a discount of 6%. Do you think the ongoing market mood might also actually weigh down on the initial public offering?
Definitely, and in ways much more amplified than we have already seen, because it is only through the past couple of days where there are fast evolving developments on the geopolitical and macroeconomic front. So definitely the weak and somber market sentiments are expected to weigh heavily down on listing prospects of these companies. While it may not truly reflect the valuation as well as the growth potential of these companies in the shorter span, but that's how the sentiments are today, and so these listings will have to bear the brunt of slightly troubled sentiments at the moment.
All right, Neera, we're just going to leave it at that. And thank you for taking out the time and speaking to us.
Pleasure.
All right, that's that we have for the IPO wrap. Stay tuned in for more.